welcome or welcome back to 4F Beauty. When will I be YouTube famous? I don't know. What I do know is that this stunning look was created using one of the Revolution Halloween palettes this year. This one is called Beautiful Darkness. So, enough of pulling faces to try and get a thumbnail. If you want to see exactly how well these applied and how they last all day, you're in just the right place. Here comes the tutorial. Hey, welcome back from the intro. Right, I will have already shown you the outside of this box. This is the Revolution Beautiful Darkness. They've got two Halloween palettes out again this year. Last year they repeated one from a previous year that was popular. The Dead or Alive palette, that was repeated last year. There aren't any repeats this year. I've got all three of their previous Halloween palettes, which is Give Them Nightmares, Give Them Darkness and The Dead or Alive. In fact, I've got two Dead or Alive because I liked it so much. I bought a backup. But now I've got so many palettes, I'm probably never going to hit pan on it. So let me know if you want me to include last year's Halloween one into the giveaway box that I'm starting to create. But anyway, this is this year's one. Love the box. Absolutely love the box. So, I have already done swatches of these, and I'll pop those up on screen just now. Right, so as you can see, I did one with flash and I did one without. Mainly because one of the shades looks almost black without flash, but once you put the flash on, you can see it is actually a green shimmer. So, the shade on the right hand side of my arm, or if you were to look at it sideways, which is how I swatched it, the top of my arm, starting from the wrist going down, starting with that sort of very, very pale taupe, are Apparition, Demon, Possessed, Nightmare, Tainted and Poison. And then the left hand row, or the bottom row, starting with the chocolatey brown going down, is Sinister, Horror, Dead Rose, Corrupted, Torment, that's the one that I said looks almost black without a flash, and a Spirit. Okie dokie. So, back to me again. Hi! As always, nice big mirror from Revolution, and they've actually put the names in the palette itself now. You used to get it on these things, which are so easy to lose that most people haven't got them. So you sort of watch a tutorial and you're like, so which colour are you using then? And because they've not got the name thing, they haven't got a Scooby. So I'm really pleased that Revolution have, because they used to chuck like one of these double-ended sponge applicators in, which I keep hold of because they're great for putting on loose pigments, shimmers or glitters. So I don't chuck them away, but I much prefer it with the names actually on the palette. I had a question about, usually I treated myself to some Spectrum brushes, and I had the question, do you have to use expensive brushes? No, you don't. I've had a set from eBay which was looking like this, which were absolutely fine. I think they're about £2, £3 for a set of 12. I'm going to be going in with these two brushes today, just to show you. Now this one, this side, they are both from Coastal Scents. This one is their Classic Blender Natural, and this one is their Classic Blender Crease Natural. The reason I'm looking over there is because I've got it written down, because rather than actually write the description of it on the handles, which would be super helpful, they've just put numbers. You expect me to remember what they're called? Do you know how many brushes I've got? Right, as you can see, base is already done. I've gone in with the EX1 Invisiwear foundation. I actually really quite like that. If the tutorial isn't live yet for that one with the wear time test, it will be going up at some point this week. So, let's get you zoomed in and let's try this here palette out. What I do like about this one is they've actually got burgundy, they've continued the burgundy on with the packaging, and I really like that because the majority of Revolution palettes are like this but black, so if you've got them all stacked up in your storage, they all look the same at the end. You haven't got a clue which one's which is why I threw away my case for the neutrals versus neutrals, the first one, because I didn't realise that Revolution palettes all looked the same when you took them out of the box, but all the other ones I've kept the boxes with, partly because I really like the artwork on the boxes, and partly so it's easy for me to tell them apart if I'm looking for one in a hurry, because it does tell you on there and at the bottom the name of the palette. Right, let's get you zoomed in, which I'm sure I've already said once. Okay, now when I look straight ahead, you can see all of my mobile eyelid, which means I don't have a hooded eye. If when you look straight ahead you don't see that, you either have a full or a half hooded eye. You can still follow my tutorial. All you need to do is get a slightly thinner brush like this, pick up the crease colour, and with your eye open, just mark where you need your crease to fall. Obviously, this is going to reduce the amount of space between your crease and your brow. So, raise your eyebrows when you're applying your shadow, and if you're still finding that it really has restricted the amount of room you've got here, if you've got quite low brows, use a slightly more tapered blending brush to start with. So instead of a nice blown out one like this, try one that's more tapered but that is still loosely packed, because you need loose packed bristles to get a nice blend and to diffuse the colour out so you don't get any blotching. Okay, now final thing that I'm going to repeat myself with, that I say every time, but I've got a lot of new subscribers, hi, welcome, who may not have heard this before. So I tend to find that matte shadows from the same palette do blend best on shadows from that same palette, because obviously it's exactly the same formulation, or you would hope. So I always say, if you've got a shade which is your skin tone or 1 to 2 shades lighter, although I have set my eyelids already with my Coty Airspun, I would still go in and just run a thin layer of it across my eye, just to make blending out the rest of the shadows easier. I don't use eyelid primer because where I've got deep set eyes, a lot of my veins are very close to the surface. I've also got discoloration, hyperpigmentation, etc. So I prefer to use a concealer which has colour to it to actually give me a nice neutral base to work from. Okay, all that being said, there is a nice matte creamy white shade here called a Spirit, which I am just going to very quickly. Ooh, there's a little bit of kick up in this. Now I don't mind kick up because you can pick it up next time round with your brush if you're careful. I don't mind kick up so long as you don't get too much fallout from it. Because at least with kick up, you know you're picking up pigment on the actual brush itself. So now what I'm going to do is go back in and just very gently lay that brush, tap that brush, and I've picked up the excess. Okay, so if you've got kick up in pan, don't panic, you're not going to be wasting it. And you can see, well, you can see probably nothing happening at the moment because this is, as I said, very close to the shade that my eyelids are anyway. So I'm just going to blether at you. I'm also going to say to you that I've got my colour switch here. It's not a Veramona one, I'm not paying 20 quid for it, I think I paid 4 quid from eBay. Just search for brush cleaners or colour switch or brush sponge, and that will normally bring those up. So, time to get funky and put some colours on. Right, I'm going to start off with Nightmare, which is that really nice dusky mustardy yellow on the top. Tap off because again there is quite a bit of kick up. And I'm going to start off on, I always start from the outside edge because if it does suddenly lay down too much pigment, oh hello, looks like we've got pigment in this one, it's much easier to blend out this side than it is over by your nose. And I always start off by windscreen wipering through to mark where my crease is. Now I can just follow the physical shape of my eyeball, but you can see there that you can just, when I open my eyes, you can just see it, and that's what you need to mark out. So if you've got a hooded lid, you just mark out a line as thin as that so you know where to start your crease from. So I'm just going to pick up the excess powder that was there. Now, having done windscreen wiper, because I'm 44, my eyelids move. Because I've lost a lot of weight, my eyelids move. Where I'm blind in this side, and it got pulled around a lot at the ophthalmic hospital when I was a kid, this one moves even more. So, one of the biggest telltales that you're getting on is gaps in your eyeshadow, where your lid has folded as you're applying it. And the best way that I've found to prevent that, hold your brush right at the end so you're putting as little pressure on as possible, and then just starting from the outside, do little circular movements going into the nose, lift the brush up slightly, reverse the direction, and come back out again. And you can see I'm not actually taking my brush off of my eye. Up a bit, bring it back in, reversing the direction to the original way. Now I normally bring my shadow, the first shade, to within about 4 or 5 mils of the lowest part of my brow, because I like to add a brow highlight over here, but you take yours up as high as you feel comfortable, okay? Once it's down and I'm happy with the level of pigmentation, I then very gently do short windscreen wipers all the way across it, just to make sure it's all blended. You can see I've got crease lines coming down here, so I do sometimes struggle a little bit to get the pigment to look okay on the corners here. 9 times out of 10 it is not the palette's fault, it's just my eye. If it is the palette's fault, I will of course let you know, because long-term viewers know you always get 100% honesty from me, even if it is a brand that I happen to like. And Revolution is certainly my favourite UK drugstore brand at the moment, in terms of price and quality. And also the fact that where I'm disabled and I'm on a very fixed income and can't afford 60, 70, 80 quid for a palette, they very often bring out dupe palettes, so similar colour schemes, which means I can still achieve the same looks and still stay relevant without having to fork out a fortune. Right, I'm now going to come across onto this eye and repeat. Now, because this one moves around an awful lot more because it got pulled around as a kid, you can see no matter how well I do it, I get like tiger stripes here. So I do have to just gently pull the outs, just very, very gently straighten that lid out there. Do not do this if your eyelids are not already that creasy, because otherwise they will become that creasy. The skin on your eyelids is the thinnest skin on your body. It's the if your body skin was letterhead paper, for example, your eyelids would be tissue paper and your under eyes would be tissue paper. So treat it as gently as you would do tissue paper. I have picked up the excess pigment and I'm now windscreen wiper. I'm helicoptering, I've done the windscreen wiper. As you can see, it's a really quick way as well to cover your lid. Now, I don't speed my tutorials up because it used to wind me up when I was first starting to get into makeup and watching tutorials, where they'd speed it up or cut out some of the blending and you'd have to keep pausing and then your screen lock would come on and they'd say, I'm just going to go and do the other eye off camera. And you're like, wait, I've got to pause it, rewind it and do it all in mirror image? You've got to be kidding me. So I don't speed my tutorials up at all. If you are quicker at blending than me, which is quite likely because obviously I stop and have a chat to you, but also with my chronic pain I do have to give myself a break every now and again because the tiny repetitive circular movements can actually give me an awful lot of pain shooting up my arm from my fibromyalgia. You can always speed me up. I think there's a widget down that side, so you can always speed me up. I'll look a little bit like a chicken and sound like Pinky and Perky, but I don't mind if you want to watch me a little bit faster. If you're quicker at blending than me, I won't be offended. I'm just happy you're enjoying my tutorials. Okay, so that's laid the mustard down and I really like that. So now I'm going to, you can see where I've tapped off. I'm now going to use a separate bit of sponge just to take any excess pigment off of the brush, and then I tend to use the tail end of the brush just to work the pigment that I've tapped off into the actual sponge so you don't get a pile of pigment there. Now I'm going to go in with let's try Demon, which is the red on the top. I know there are browns in here, but browns are so easy to make, it's not a good test of the palette. Hardest colours to cultivate are purple, blue, and then red and yellow. So I've done the yellow, I'm now going in with the red. Wish me luck. So I'm using the same brush, and initially I'm going to start off doing exactly the same thing, windscreen wipering through my crease or wherever your crease needs to be. But this time, when I pick up the excess pigment and I am going to do my helicopters, instead of going across and then lifting it to come back, I'm literally just going to blend it just above that first crease line. I am not going to lift the brush up at all, but I'm still going to reverse the direction and come back 2 or 3 times just to ensure that this darker colour, because darker pigments generally do take longer to blend out simply because they have more pigment in them. They are darker, they contain more of the colour pigments that need blending out. So do not be surprised if you are using darker shadows, darker mattes for the first time. You're like, why is it taking me so long to blend out? The lighter ones don't. That's perfectly normal, no need to panic. Okay? So you can see there is still a nice distinct line between the 2 colours. I'm going to clean this brush off, take all the pigment off of it, pick up a little bit of Nightmare, literally just dob in the palette, and I'm just going to very gently buff over where the 2 colours meet, partly to ensure a really seamless transition and partly to ensure we still see that mustard at the top. I like that. Clean the brush off, going back in with Demon again, and I'm going to repeat it on this eye. So, through the crease, in windscreen wiper movements. See what I mean about the stripes? Yeah. Pick up the kick up from the pan and blend this one in. So how's your day been so far? I feel very rude. I've been blethering away here and haven't even asked you yet. I do hope it's a good day. Or if you're at the start of your day and you're watching me over your breakfast, I hope your day is as good as it can ever be. I know some, we have to have some bad days, otherwise we wouldn't appreciate the good ones. If we only had good days, it would make life very samey, and you wouldn't appreciate it. Right, again, I've cleaned off, tap tap into Nightmare, and just gently buffing where those two colours meet, just to strengthen the mustard and ensure a nice blend. I really like how this is blending, to be honest. Really is blending out nicely. I've taken all the pigment off and I'm just going to give one final buff over the red before I deepen this up, because I don't want any excess pigment. I want to make sure I've got it all blended in seamlessly. To quote John McClane, seamless. Yeah, that's nice. Right, so now I'm going to go in with this classic Blender Crease Natural from Coastal Scents. Lot of words. And I'm going to go into Horror, which is a really nice sort of burgundy, plummy shade. Again, an awful lot of kick up in this pan, so make sure you tap off super well. I much prefer when shades are dark to build the pigment up than have it go on too dark and then not be able to blend it out. So I'm going to start off just applying a little bit of that to the outside edge here. Then I'm going to pick up the excess and I'm going to run it through my crease like we did before. However, when I blend this time, I'm going to blend on the crease. So first time we did above the crease and blended it up. Second time you blended just above the crease but didn't take it up. And now I'll tilt my head backwards so you can see what I'm doing this side. I'm just going to blend on the actual crease itself. That's why I'm using a much more tapered brush, because I don't want this deeper colour to go too far up the eye. I still want to be able to see all three shades. And where I've got deep set eyes, I'm very lucky. I've got a lot of lid space to play with. This is why I said if you don't have this much lid space, then do use slightly more tapered brushes to get the same effect. And again, it's weird because this bit here looks patchy in my viewfinder, but in my mirror it looks absolutely fine. I'll have to see how it looks when I edit it, but I can assure you that does actually look absolutely fine. It's not scrappy at all. So again, just pop a little bit of pigment. I normally do about the length of the brush or a third of your eye for the corner, just to give a little bit of extra definition on the outside. And always when you're doing this, make sure you're flicking up, because otherwise if you flick across or down, you're going to make your eyes appear drooping at the sides, which is very ageing and very unflattering and makes you look sad and unhappy. And makeup should always make you smile. So again, through my crease, and this is my super moving lid. I normally get a lot more fallout this side simply because my lid moves a lot more, as you can see. But whatever fallout there is has dusted away fine. If you've got fallout from anything that's red or pink, or purple to a certain extent, make sure you brush it away as quickly as you can, because those are the colours that are most likely, if anything's going to stain, it'll be those colours. Right, so let's close this eye and blend in a twirly-whirly movements, like a helicopter or a sycamore leaf along that crease. So you can see I'm gently flicking up at the end there, just do that really slowly, just so you can catch the movement. You see I'm going up before I start blending back into the crease, and it's just little things like that that can make an awful lot of difference, especially if you've got hooded eyes, because that will help to open your eye up a little bit. I like that a lot. Right, now I always finish all of my matte work before I start on the shimmer, and as I'm intending to put shimmer on the lid, I need to do my under eyes. So, continuing on with this lovely, what is it, Classic Blender Crease Natural from, good lord, Coastal Scents. I think, see, I want to try and use as many colours as I can. I don't really want to go in with the black because that's going to be too dark. Right, I'm going to go in with Demon, which is the red. I know I've already used it, but I'm just going to very gently smudge that using just the very, very tips of the brush along my under eye like this, just up under the bristles, up under my lashes. Good lord, woman, I need more coffee. Oh, I just poked myself in the eye. This is why I normally flinch like this when I'm doing this side, because being blind in it, I have to rely on my viewfinder and muscle memory to not poke myself in the eye, and some days I get it so wrong. And it appears that today is one of those days. Now, you don't have to do this shading under your eyes, but I think, for me, I feel it finishes the look off, because where I have got quite watery eyes, very often if I put anything in the waterline, it ends up either getting watered out or ends up collecting just here. So I prefer to put the colour under my lashes just so that it really shows up properly and is less likely to be washed away with tears of irritation, my darling. Got no idea what that accent is, for which I immediately apologise. Right, I'm going to go into Possessed on the top row, which is one of those browns that I haven't used yet. I'm still going to go in with this pointy brush. I refuse to keep repeating the name, the pointy brush. And I'm just going to gently, using the side of the brush this time, just smudge out that red, just to soften it ever so slightly. And also because if you just go in with reds underneath, you are at risk of looking like you have pink eye, or you haven't slept, or you're trying to be Dracula. Which could be the look you're going for. Myself, however, would prefer to look human today, or as close to what passes for that as I can muster. These shades really do blend out nicely. I don't know why I'm sounding surprised. There's only about one Revolution palette that I can't get on with, and that's the oh god, can't even think of the name of it now. It'll come to me. It's one of their earlier palettes with the smaller circular pans. Yeah, it's absolutely gone out of my brain. I haven't got a Scooby right now. Right, I'm going to go back to my Spectrum for this one, mainly because it's the only small definer brush I've got to hand. This is the A16, and it's, as you can see, a thin packer brush. I'm also going to go in with this So Eco brush, which is the larger version of it. Now, the only problem is, So Eco had the name of it on the handle, and I've washed the brush many times, the name's come off. So yeah, well done for not actually stamping it in so that you know, it actually lasts. So Eco, you just screen print it on. That's a brilliant idea. Right, I always go in with shimmers initially with a dry brush, and then I'll use something like this. This is the Obsession Pigment Boost, to wet the shimmer again and see whether we get any glossier finish. Now, there's no reason you can't use shimmers dry, but you do tend to get a more metallic finish when you do that. When you go in with a wet brush, you have a more glossy or almost like a foiled finish. It's not foiling your shadows, it's just going in with a wet brush. Foiling your shadows is where you get some shadow and you mix it to a paste with a mixing medium and then apply it as you would with like a loose pigment. So, I am going to go in with, I think, Torment, which is that beautiful green on the bottom. And I've got it on my little A16. I'm not cutting the crease today. I'm just going to have a slightly softer look, because the problem I get again with having deep set eyes is that if I don't use a glitter glue, this will eventually transfer up onto my upper lid during the day. But it's only noticeable when I close my eyes, because it's when I do that and it disappears back into the crease of my eyeball. Something that I'm sure ladies and gents with hooded eyes will more than understand. Right, now I'm going to go with my So Eco brush into the same colour. I was going to do different shades, but I quite like this colour. Just to do the remainder of the lid, because if I use the little one, we're going to be here all day. Right, now this is the effect with a dry brush, which, as you can see, still gives reasonable impact. But I'm now going to go in on a wet brush. Now, I always apply the pigment to the brush, then spray it, rather than the other way around, because I don't like going into the palette with a wet brush, because you can sometimes find that will seal or get hard pan then on the shadow. And to ensure that it's dry, when I go back in, I clean it off on the colour switch and then dry it in the palm of my hand before I go back in with it again. Little tip for you there. Right, now let's pick some more up on my So Eco, and we will give that a bit of a spritz. When it's wet, you're almost better off sort of pushing it on initially rather than swiping it, because this way you tend to build up a more intense colour. You can just blend it out, but if you really want the colour to absolutely pow, you're better off just gently packing the pigment on. And you can see I tend to go in like a diagonal line there, so when my eyes open it almost forms a straight line with my lashes, because I still want that burgundy to show at the edge, and I should probably go back in with that in a minute anyway. Right, clean and dry So Eco brush. Now going back in with my little A16 from Spectrum. And repeat with this side. Now, as I said, with this side I do actually have to hold the lid when I'm applying shimmers. You can see why I hope. And then going in with my So Eco brush. I tend to sort of drag it across to where I want it to go to, and then just push the pigment on, if that makes sense. Sort of, to get my top line, I tend to sort of just drag the tip of the bristles across, and then obviously use the side just to press the rest of that shadow onto the lid. And as you can see, it does give you a really nice result. Right, I'm just going to go in very briefly with my pointy Coastal Scents brush, and I'm going back into Horror. I just want to carefully deepen that edge and just very gently run it. You can see I'm getting full out here, and I'm really not surprised with this bit, because I'm ever so gently fluffing it over the edge of that green. See the difference? It just gently sort of diffuses the edge slightly, because obviously it's not a cut crease. I don't want a harsh line there. And I'm going to do exactly the same this side, just increase the pigment and very gently just flick the tip of the bristles over where the green and the burgundy meet. I actually managed to do that without a huge amount of fallout. Well done me. So, there's our eye look. I am now going to go off camera, and I am going to put some eyeliner on. Now, I have got a separate tutorial for how to apply winged liner. The only reason I'm doing it off camera is because I have a really bad habit of ending up looking down at the mirror like this, and you end up looking at the top of my head, which is really not helpful if you're trying to follow it. So I'm going to pause you right now, and I will come back with mascara and eyeliner, and I might bung a bit of highlighter on as well, depending on how I feel. Alrighty then, back in a mo. Hey, I'm back. I used the Revolution Double Flick liquid eyeliner, which is thin at one end and thick at the other. That's awesome because you can use the thin end to make sure you get a lovely sharp point, and then use the thick end for filling it in, which saves you a lot of time. I used my Benefit Bag Gal Bang mascara, which is not waterproof, so I'm fingers crossed that I'm not going to end up with too much of a watery eye today. And I've been obsessed with this since I picked it up. This is the Ofra Nikki Tutorials Glazed Donut Highlighter. Can you see why I'm obsessed with it? But normally when I come back on, I would have my lipstick done. And you're probably thinking, well, why haven't you done that yet then, Ange? Well, there's a very good reason. Because I wanted to show you this Ciate Glitter Flip. I've got it in a couple of shades. I've got the deep purple one, and this is a pink one called Candy. So, nice muted rose, as you can see. So let's get you zoomed in. Now there is a trick to putting on liquid lipsticks, which I know a lot of people have said they found super, super helpful. So I'm just going to run through it again. Now with these glitter flips, you want to put a very, very minimal thin coat on, because then you get the best effect. Effect of what? Wait and see. Right, so doe foot applicator. Yes? Start off doing the inner rim of your bottom lip. And then turn it sideways and use the edge of it to line the edge of the lip. And then for the top lip, we're going to do the 45-degree rule. So you hold it straight up, and then you do 45-degree angle, and you're going to do your Cupid's bow, move it across, and just do the outside edge of the top of this part of your lip. Ready? Exactly the same angle, back to the centre, 45 the other way, repeat what you just done. You've now got an M. Turn it upside down and go from the corner of your mouth to the line you've just made. And then fill in any excess. Preferably without putting it on your teeth. Now, I need to give this a minute to dry. I'll pause you, you don't need to wait for a minute while this dries, hold on. I've been holding them like this while they dry. Now, watch what happens. You can see it's a nice matte lipstick. Watch what happens when I smoosh my lips together. Glitter lips. And what I've found with this is throughout the evening you can do that again and it will again bring the glitter to the fore, but it doesn't feel gritty like most glitter lipsticks do. I started off with the purple one, which I love, and then I got the pink one, which I love, and they've now apparently had hair on my lips, sorry. They've now apparently got a red one, which I need for Christmas. And the final step, as all my regulars will know, is setting spray. Today's setting spray of choice is I Heart Revolution Cucumber. So, we shake, we hold at arm's length, and we liberally douse our faces. Now, most people would stop here. I'm not most people. I'm a little bit extra. Because once I've spent all this time putting this makeup on, I want it to, say it with me regulars, stay put. So, there we go. There's my look using one of the Revolution Halloween palettes, a beautiful darkness. What I will do, I'll try and remember to do anyway, is I'll take some photos now and then again at the end of the night so we can see then how much these fade or if they fade. The majority of Revolution ones don't normally fade that much, but we need to see this. This is part of the review. It's something that I got asked for on one of my other eyeshadow reviews. I was asked, you know, how does it wear through the day? Can you include that in your review? So that's what I'm going to do. So the pictures, if I remember to take them, please God I remember to take them, are going to come up here. And at this point I'm either going to go, oh yeah, these faded a bit, or woohoo, they're wonderful, they haven't faded. And then back to me. Do you notice how I gave myself both options there? Oh, I didn't come down in the last shower of rain, you know. Right, it's quite enough from me for one day anyway. I've got a crap ton of editing I need to go and do for films to get up for you. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you did, it would be awesome if you could hit that like button for me, comment, share, subscribe. When you subscribe, don't forget to hit the bell. Good Lord, I'm tripping over my tongue. And when you hit the bell, Don't forget to choose all notifications, not just some, and then you will get told every time I upload another video. Talking of another video, I've got lots to choose from. Have you seen them all? Why not have a wander through and spend a few minutes watching another one? Alright, all that remains for me to say is you'll stay fabulous now. I'll see you again next time. Bye for now.